सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Since yesterday it was raining, hopefully you had not to use boats to reach here. So the last month we started the effort to continuously have something as Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Therefore, this is not like the format of the evening lectures which we are having as a yajna, which has a stipulated end date. This will continue at a slower pace, but with a deeper understanding. And as we proceed, wherever there are questions, last time also we had one whole session spent on the questions and answers, so that as we proceed, we will be able to look into Bhagavad Gita, probably with Shankar Bhashya, and then down the lane Upanishads, so that there is a satsanga that happens here always. So in that account, after Atma Bodha, I thought the next one, that which will construct our Shravana and Manana, would be Advaita Makaranda. This book is written by Lakshmidhara Kavi. Unlike other authors, we do not find much about him historically. As we were somewhere in the mid path of Atma Bodha, since then I have been researching on his life. Somewhere vaguely I have found that this Sri Lakshmidhara Kavi was his Purvashrama name, and later he was known as Sri Swami Krishnanandendra Saraswati. He hails from the Puri Jagannath area, Odisha, and his work is something of a profoundness. His only work that which we find under this name, Lakshmidhara Kavi, is this Advaita Makaranda. Makaranda is the rasa, that which the flowers bring out, and the bees, the butterflies, they hover over and draw that nectar to collect it in their hives. Now, while this is being drawn, if you have seen those hummingbirds or the butterfly or the bees, the way they land on the flower is, the flower probably doesn't even get to experience that there is something hovering over. Effortlessly they draw it and then they collect it. So in this particular Advaita Makaranda, there are 28 flowers, 28 drops of nectar, that which we get to see. Meaning this whole work is about 28 shlokas. The reason I like this particular mode or format is it is too direct. The logic, approach and the presentation is of very direct nature. He provides with absolute sense of clarity, and the audacity to present it this way is very charming. Just like Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, here also we find quite an exuberance of poetic expression. He was a well-known Sanskrit scholar, so his scholastic approach and that poetry is visible right from the go, from the first shloka, first word onwards. Because the first word is almost 16 syllables, meaning it is a continuous compound. He starts with that, and it's very direct. In Vedanta, we start with Shravana. Through Shravana, we get that pramana. The indriyas that which we have are constructed in such a way, manufactured in such a way that they also bring vyavaharika jnana, but they are tuned and turned outwardly. That is how they have been made. Eyes have to see, the ears have to hear, the nose has to smell, the tongue has to taste, the skin has to feel. That is how they are made. Paranchikhani vyatrunas swayambhuhu paran pashyati na antaratman. So we should be clear that this is not a defect. This is how they were made, so that the efficiency of our interaction in the world outside is established properly. But now when we come to Shravana, that pramana which the organs of action and perception bring is not sufficient. That pramana is not enough. It brings limitation as our experience. When I say limitation, what is the limitation? Anything that which we are perceiving is limited in time and space. From the moment that we experience to the end of that experience, either the experience ends or the vastu ends. That is the very nature of this creation, that it is constantly changing. Nothing has permanency. Prama means jnana. It brings the jnana of the outside, which is not permanent, which is not pure in nature, which is not complete in nature. From deep within, there is constantly a search, a seeking, wherein I am constantly looking for something that which will give me the sense of completeness, highest amount of fulfillment. This has been the constant search. That tripti. Therefore they said, at least temporarily, the tripti that which we can experience is the tripti of having food. Our request when we are serving is triptiga tinandi. Eat completely. And the experience also is triptosmi. I have eaten enough, that there is no more. But then that doesn't last. In 3 to 4 hours, we start searching and seeking again. Even more fleeting is that which we experience with the other organs. That as we are still engaging in one set of experience, we are already planning for the next few. Because we know intrinsically that this sense that which I am experiencing cannot be complete. Then the rishis, through the Upanishads, show us the way. Show us the way that that which we are searching and seeking, in fact, even that little amount of tripti that which we experience because of our wrong attribution of it to the vastu that which we are experiencing, is also not the nature of that vastu. But as we experience, the mind quietens, and in that quietening of our mind, we experience that there is our own true nature that expresses forth, though very briefly, very small amount of it. Therefore, we end up attributing it to that vastu. Because if that nature was there in that vastu should have been giving that same amount of experience the nth time we experience it. Even if our mood was not proper, even if our mood was not great, we should have been able to experience it thoroughly. But we see that the same vastu does not give the same amount, the same quantum of tripti or joy every time I repeat it. In fact, the more I indulge in it, the more I feel disgusted by it. But the key point which they have mentioned is, it is something which is reflecting to the surface, which is of my true nature. Therefore, the attention is brought towards the inner field, not the external field. And when the attention is drawn to the inner field, we see that though logically we may be understanding it, but out of habit we are drawn constantly to the outside, as though by sheer immense force. Therefore, in the very beginning, they say the sadhaka should prepare oneself for even that shravana to happen, where that pramana is rightly grasped without distractions. There are certain qualifications laid out. For anything in life, we need qualification. Just because you want to become an engineer, you don't get to join the college unless and until you pass those qualifiers. In my days, it used to be called as MSET. What is it called today? It's still called MSET? Okay. There used to be IIT entrance. There used to be various other, if this was the engineering stream. If it is not the engineering stream, then the medical entrance. What to talk of those who become CA, the chartered accountants. They have to keep qualifying at least 2 rounds. Intermediate and final. So I am not wrong. There are 2 stages there. Of the several thousands that they attempt, now probably lakhs that they attempt, only a few that get an opportunity to get through. The qualifiers test if we are qualified for that particular stream, that particular field of knowledge to be acquired. It weeds out. Earlier days it used to be very, very strict. That only those who are qualified go seek, and they were in obscure corners of the Bharatavarsha, some mountainous regions. And Gurudev also had to walk all the way to Uttarkashi. But then, thanks to his vision, that he has opened these different possibilities right in our own cities. That it is not in some obscure corner, that it is available. And if you ever get to read the dialogue between Swami Tapon Maharaj and Gurudev, Tapon Maharaj's idea was, those who are qualified, they should reach us out. We don't need to search. Gurudev's logic was, they don't even know that there is something like this available. It has become so obscure that people are not even aware of it. So at least a little taste of it should be given. What was the qualifiers that they were ready to look for? For an individual who is ready for Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, there has to be the sadhana chatushtaya. One has to start with there. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhi, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutva. Just like the individual who has to eat food, Bhubukshutvam is the qualification. The individual should have hunger. Without hunger, if the stomach is already full, however tasty the food may be, if you present it, there is a lot of greed. They will say, keep it here, I will have it later. But at this point, I cannot afford to put even an ounce of it inside. But when hunger strikes, you will rush to whatever available. So, as I became the brahmachari, whenever bhikshas were available, it was fine. But when I had to cook for myself, I found it that once you start getting hungry, then start cooking. Whatever is cooked, by the time you are done, it will appear the most tasty. Because at that point what is required is that the Madhya Pradesh fills in as quickly as possible. There is no other parameter there. The hunger is to that level. Similarly should be the hunger for moksha, mokshecha. How should it be? When Vivekananda reached to Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, after the first famous dialogue that they had, which he had promised that, I see Bhagavan as I see you. So now the intensity was, show it to me now. So he gave, I usually go to Gangaji to take bath at 4 o'clock. You be here by that time. Let's first go have a bath. And while taking bath in Gangaji, when Vivekananda dipped down, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa held him down. So first he thought maybe it is some kind of diksha. But then he wouldn't leave. So he struggled, and then finally he had to push him aside to get out. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, finding his balance, was laughing. People had told him that you are going to a crazy man, and here was a proof. But the student was also extraordinary as the teacher. So he immediately asked, what were you trying to teach? He said, how was your intensity to get out and have a breather? That you were ready to push me aside into the flowing Ganges just so that you could get up and have your breath. He said, anybody would have that intensity? No, I am not talking about anybody. At that point, what was your intensity? Do you have that kind of burning intensity for that which you are asking? That burning intensity is called mumukshutva. That it is not one of the things on my list of things to do. It is the only. Guruji has changed the title of the book. He has named it as the one and only. Advaita. Nothing other than it. Even if there are other things to do, that should be aligned in such a way that they help you to this one cause. That whatever else that you are doing, it should create that pocket of opportunity so that the focus comes here and gets established here. That should be the kind of intensity. For that to be well established, we start from Viveka. This is to that student who has already had enough sattvikata in the antakarana. Because we hear people say, all this Vedanta is fine, but people should start living like a human being. What is the purpose of all of this when we cannot respect each other? When we cannot, accommodate each other, accept each other? Now this is to that student who has all of these qualifications, and then we are talking about Viveka. In Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji very beautifully puts it right from the baseline. He says, Jantunam nara janma durlabhamataha pumsvam tato viprata. of the scores of things that are born amongst them, it is just this human being who has this amazing caliber, the intellect. Jantunam nara janma durlabham. To be born in such human birth. And then pumstvam. To have the tenacity to go through life in spite of how difficult the task may be. The grit to go through life. To not to succumb because the situations are difficult, but in spite of the situations, try to grow in the right direction. Then vipratva. Vipratva, knowledgeable, wherein there is a constant yearning to learn, to be the right, good, qualified student. Pumstvam tato viprata. Then comes uhapoha vichakshanaha. So the basic quality is that there is utmost level of sattvikata wherein viveka is possible to be established. There were, wherever we had been for lectures, a new trend that caught my attention is they have stopped giving bouquets or flowers or garlands, but they have started giving plants. Now getting them here is the easy part. Now to find a spot wherein we can plant them, that was the difficult part. You cannot just dig a hole and put anywhere that you feel like. There has to be an understanding. What kind of plant? Does it require lot of sunlight? Does it require less amount of sunlight? Or can it grow even in a shaded surface? Then find that right spot. Clean up that entire place. It should not be rocky. It should not have all different kinds of things that the moment you put this plant there, all those worms climb up and start eating all the foliage so you should first clean it up. Also plan for a little fence around it so that other animals or people inadvertently. When I was in Dallas, the first 2 years I had not much of a job. Weekly 1 hour was a job. So I had a lot of time on hand. And in Vijayawada, I was like working for about 15-16 hours a day and suddenly plucked out from there and put in Dallas. And it is not like the Indian environment that you see people on. It's like nirmanushi. There is no one. I said, a good place to do sadhana because there is no one, therefore there is nobody that will come to disturb you. So I said, let me do gardening. So I went around, found at least about 15-16 different varieties of jasmines. So the entire backyard, I tilled it up, planted these plants, grew nice shrubs. Then I had to come to India for a couple of months. By the time I went back, there was the gardener who does the lawn mowing and other things. So as soon as I came, he very happily said, "Your backyard had so many weeds. I have pulled all of it out." My heart sank. Because In here we will find them in plenty, in abundance. There to search for these specific plants was quite difficult. The only thing I wish I had put a fence around so that somebody like this may not be plucking it out thinking that I have not seen such plants here, so they must be weeds. And they are abundantly growing, there are 14, 15 of them. So pluck them all. I mean, he had done a neat job of plucking them all and tilling that place. And do you know what is the highest cultivation in the world? Is grass. So he put grass. I was like, again I have to start again. Similarly, when we are trying to come to that level of viveka, there should be some amount of sattvikata, that I have an opportunity to sit down and understand what viveka is and how is it to be applied. And the only place where we can get this, satsangatve nissangatva, binu satsanga vivekana hoi. Without satsanga there is no possibility of viveka. So far whatever was the input of knowledge and wisdom that was going in to correct my course was only about vyavahara outside. Now for the inside world, the parameters, the framework has to shift, has to change. So in the outside world, not that we did not have viveka. We did have viveka, but that was vyavaharik viveka. When we go into the market, we have to get vegetables back home, we will do viveka. The fellow who is selling would want to randomly put all the tomatoes in the basket and weigh them. Wait. तब छाटना शुरू करते हैं. All those which has blemishes on it, all those which are too raw, all those which are little soft that your hand goes or your finger goes pluck inside. I said these are not good. Of course, if you are buying other vegetables, you also have to look out for how holy they are. If there are holes, that means there might be some protein living as a jiva inside. So those are disqualified. Then there are those that which you have a sensory perception and you press, you just gently hold them and see if they are at the right tenderness. Then there are those that get the pariksha of your nasika. You smell. Sometimes there are certain variety of mangoes which look green, but they are ripe from inside. Now how do you decipher that? Now it has that ripe smell to it. Then there are some tricky ones. Bhindi. How do you test it? So there is the tip and that you bend, and the moment you bend it, it should snap. These are the good ones. Vyavaharika viveka is there. I had lot of Yuva Kendra members, and if I would tell them, dal chada ke rakho. Which dal? There are 6-7 varieties. So if I give them an instruction saying peeli dal, yellow one, Swamiji, there are 3. Which of these 3? That viveka we have enough. But here the same Viveka takes a different framework. Now, what is that framework? Atma, Anatma. Then the entire world of this Adhyatmikata starts opening up with a different framework. Most of us commit this, that which has been my earlier framework, I bring it to this field as well and see if I can accommodate Vedanta in that framework. Recently I was in Bombay teaching to the students at the Vedanta course. One very interesting question that came in was, Swamiji, I have studied psychology. Now I am trying to see how to map this Vedanta on psychology. Can you help me map? So I said, for most of it, yes, you can map. But you have to do a lot of manana to understand what are the variables and how to map it. But then I suddenly shifted the gears and said, is it even fair to ask that I want to understand Vedanta through the already existing framework which I have structured for 3-4 years of my rigorous study of that particular field? Now I have to fit this new thing into that, and if it doesn't fit in there, then I say that Vedanta doesn't work. I said, is it fair to ask? Just like in psychology, when you entered, that framework was structured and you were taught that framework to understand it in that particular light. Similarly, there should be the new scope of this framework to be understood and established. Sometimes it might look very similar, but the depth of it might vary. So I told him a story. There was a student under Ramakrishna Paramahansaji. There were about 17 of them, those first students. One of them wanted to pursue further knowledge, and he thought learning Sanskritam properly for 2 years at least would give him that hold in understanding the scriptures better. So he requested Ramakrishna Paramahansaji, and he said, I have a contact in Kashi. He has been very regular coming here. He is a very well-known scholar. Why don't you go there and learn from him? I'll give you a introduction letter. So the introduction letter was given. He came to Kashi. As soon as that Panditji was told that he was coming from Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he was ecstatic that from his guru came this student who has been living with him and learning. He was even more ecstatic that I get to serve a guru in this form as his Sishya. Then after the initial, the Athitya was given and everything was done, then he slowly brought that letter and put his requisition and gave that letter. After reading through that letter, what that Panditji said and how this student reacted is the most beautiful one. He said, very nonchalantly, might appear very rudely, he said, go back to the threshold of the house. He says, wherever you have left your chappal, leave Ramakrishna Paramahamsa there. If you and I were there, we would have been shocked, reactive. Then he went out, stood there, understood what he was saying, and then after a few moments he came back and said, I think I understand what you said. I think I am ready now. He said, now let's begin. You are not here as the student of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Now you have to have a different framework. You are student of Sanskritam. Your framework has to change. If you are not willing to change that framework, nothing can be given. Glad that that student had that much of viveka and not take it to the heart and said that I don't want to learn from that who insults Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He was not insulting Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He was just asking that framework has to be put aside. A newer framework has to be instilled. Thereby, you should be ready to that freshness of this newer framework. In constructing that framework itself takes a laborious time for a Vedantic seeker. Because we hardly spend that time to structure that framework properly. As to what do these words mean? What do they mean by its application? Just for example, in the common parlance in the outside world, when they say that, vairagyan chala ekkuvayipoyindi, meaning he has become negligent, that he is not paying attention to that which should have been paying. So therefore, we call that as vairagya. When you come to Vedantic parlance, the understanding is completely different. You cannot apply that meaning, that framework here. Just like how I explained the Viveka, it is the same quality, but application is different. So the framework has to change. Therefore, we go through the Shravana Manana of various Prakarana Granthas to solidify this framework, because the framework is shaky. That which you have to construct becomes almost impossible. See, most of the times when these buildings, they have to be reworked, whether it is a cement work or a paint work or whatever be the job. What do they first do? They construct a edifice around, and that has to be strong. If that is not strong, if that is not properly instilled, the higher you climb, there is that much of a high possibility of mishaps to occur. And at that stage to cry, saying that I have put so much of effort, still there is no phala, it is too late. So the very initial effort has to be in putting that time and effort into this particular edifice to be rightly placed, rightly constructed. Therefore, we look into several of these Prakarana Grantha. The word Prakarana, Prakarshena Kriyate, very efficiently brought out to reformat that structure, that it is established in such a way that it is not something which can be easily collapsible. Rightly structured. So the basic Vedantic concepts are rightly grasped in its application as well. Now in this particular text, we will not be going through the earlier layer of qualifications. It is to that who had been already explained what those qualifications are required in Atma Bodha. We are proceeding from then on. So hopefully you are all ready for it. Because this is very direct and this is very subtle. For those that who have had the foundation of those basic given, from then on it is being built up. So if that much is clear, we will get into this. As I said, from the very first shloka, this Mahatma Ji expresses it in the most beautiful order. So since this is a little poetic in its expression, please try chanting it. The vocabulary will sound little different. Are you all ready with the book? Page number 9. कटाक्ष किरणा चांत नमन् मोहाब्धये नमः अनंतानंद कृष्णाय जगन्मंगलमूर्तये Just like in Bhaja Govindam or Tattva Bodha or Atma Bodha, the first shloka is the Mangalacharana. And in the Mangalacharana, the invocation is to both their Ishtadeva as well as their Guru. Because the Shastra which points to that Bhagavan is being expounded upon by that Guru, therefore the gratitude towards that Guru is constant. If there is one rina, one debt, that which we can never repay, all the other debts are repayable, is the Rishi Rina. To that jnana given by that person who requires nothing in return, how do you pay them back? Because anything that which you want to return feels very limited, feels very tiny. So that is one rina which can never be. Therefore, your kritagnyata towards them is expressed any which possible way, any opportunity that comes. So in the Mangalacharana, both are worshipped. Both's blessings are invoked. They have invoked it for writing it. We are also in turn, by chanting it, invoking the blessings of the entire Guru Parampara and that blessings of Bhagavan as well. So when he took sannyasa, Lakshmidhara Kavi's name became Krishnanandendra Saraswati. His guru was Anantanandendra Saraswati. So right there he puts Anantananda Krishnaya. So that Krishna who is Ananta and Ananda Swarupa, as well as on the side he is also mentioning, saying Anantananda who is my very Guru Maharaj as well, to him as well my salutations. Anantananda Krishnaya Jagan Mangala Murtaye. He is the most auspicious form. Why is he auspicious? Because he himself is Ananta and Ananda Swarupa. Ananta, that which is not having Anta, limitation, that which is unlimited, unbound, there are no boundaries. Ananta. And Ananda. Ananda is, in English when we translate it, the words might mean something because of our colloquial usage. For our purpose, let us draw a line as to what these words would mean. Joy is of that nature which is of the nature of temporariness, which we enjoy. The enjoyments which we enjoy. That is joy. Knowing that they are very temporary in nature. Happiness or bliss is that which is of the permanent nature. See, however these words we may use in our day to day. For our understanding, whenever I say that it is joy, I mean it is temporary of nature. Whenever I say it is happiness or bliss, it is of the permanency of nature. So that we are on same page when we communicate. What is it that can be of the nature of happiness? That which is complete unto itself alone is this paripurnatvena anandaha. That which is complete unto itself, full of itself. And though again colloquially when we say you are full of yourself, it means something else totally. Here the self meaning the highest nature. That paripurnatva, when it reflects in the antakarana, what we experience is called ananda. The expression of it is called ananda. That which is unlimited, that which is unbound, complete unto itself, that which reflects into our antakarana as ananda swarupa, that very embodiment, murtaye, murti or vigraha, when we say, it means the very embodiment of that nature. In this world, that is the most auspicious. What is the most auspicious for a Vedantic student? That which liberates us from limitations to abide in our true nature, which is the self. We don't need special teaching to be how to be bound. We are experts at it. Uncertified, we are postdoc, not even PhD. We have enough qualifications to know all the possible tricks of the trade as to how to stay in binding. And that is what leads to frustration, that is what leads to irritation. That which liberates us from this sense of limitation, that is the most auspicious. So therefore the first sentence is Mohabdhaye achanta. Achanta is again a different word that which we don't listen to quite regularly. That is what we think. But we do listen to this word. Whenever we sit for puja, what is the first thing that we do? Achamana. Right? We do the 3 times. What does achamana mean? Acha dhatu means to sip, to consume, to drink up. So, achanta mohabdhaye namaha. So, to that Bhagavan who provides us the opportunity to dry up the mohabdhi. We have heard samsara sagara, we have heard bhava sagara, This is all that bhava happens because the moha itself is that ocean like, our delusion. Delusion to take various things, beings, desha, kala, paristhiti, parimana as the source of our completeness. That when we travel, we come back and say, it is so good to be back at home. The most comfortable. So I keep yearning for, wherever I go, to come back to a certain desha, environment. And even in that, some pleasant time. So Monday through Saturday, constantly running, doing, as soon as Sunday comes. Today is Sunday, right? I am happy that all of you are here. Because usually the format is 6 days of the week I have exerted. Now I am home. Therefore, I can afford to grant myself extra few hours of lazing around on the bed. So on Sundays, what is special? There is no breakfast. Get up so late that it is now called brunch. Trishanku Swarga. Neither here nor there. Therefore, brunch. So, a particular time. Of these weekdays, what is the most favorable? Sunday. Thoda relax. That's why I said Monday begins. Monday blues. Abba, Mandi varam modalainda. Again the week has begun. Monday blues. And the anticipation for the weekend starts from Tuesday, Wednesday itself. So, desha, kala, paristhiti, parimana, various kinds of situations, that which we anticipate, that can give me that sense of completeness. In that space and time, what kind of things, what kind of people, that should I be interacting with? That also has to be managed. There are certain kinds of people, I feel happy with them when they go. There are certain kinds of people that I feel happy when they come. So now I have to manage the time and space in such a way that the people that I want happiness from are there. The people that I want happiness when they're going also has to be scheduled. So we have Balavihars on Sundays, in US, here also, right? So the parents are eagerly looking forward. The apple of their eye, Jaan ka tukda, 1.5 hour, Chinmaya Mission, Balavihar, le lo. Why? We get that 1.5 hour to ourselves. So when I say people go, just giving definition, that which we call as my very heart of my being, we want a space and time away from them also. Because the delusion is that the time, space, people, things, environments that can give me that sense of peace, calm, pleasantness, joy. And if that doesn't happen, then the frustration begins, irritation begins. Therefore, the vacation also is like I have to get away from all of this. Have you observed? You come back from the vacation more tired than your regular days. See, when I am in flights or train or whatever mode, when I see the parents, they are carrying more pieces of luggage, children also, and the children are being children. Especially the tiny ones, they walked the airport, they walked a little distance, they have their own tiny little suitcases, they have dragged it enough, and after a while, they give up. It's all happening in front of everybody. They don't care. I cannot walk further. Mama, So the dada has to carry all the luggage and the mama has to carry this fellow, that fellow. Because one fellow begins, the other fellow will also ask. This is called what? Vacation. See, the moha has become like an ocean. How does one get out of it? The only place where it can be guaranteed that this can be a possibility even, and that who is providing it, to that Krishna, salutations. How does he do it? That we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.